Well, seeing as we're all from, different cultural backgrounds,
Yeah.
different ethnic backgrounds and upbringings, why don't we start with a little bit about, what your experience was culturally growing up here or yourself, and, kind of go around and give a little bit of a backstory as to our own experience.
So for me, growing up, I come from a Somali kind of background,
Mm-hmm.
and for us, in terms of like growing up, we're kind of like drilled into us like when we're growing up that hard work is important.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever you do, it's like hard work, because obviously, especially for my mum, she came to the UK in 1994,
Mm-hmm.
and there was like a little civil war going on in Somalia at the time. So she obviously came over to the UK, and obviously a lot of her brothers and sisters went to different parts of the world and stuff. So yeah, she came to the UK to obviously try to have like a better way of life and stuff. So all the experiences that she had growing up, she tried to drill it into like me and my other siblings and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
which is to obviously like work hard, don't give up and stuff. If you're going through like a difficult situation or anything like that, it's just to just pull through it, because obviously the light's going to be at the end of the tunnel. So yeah, that's kind of like the background that we kind of have. But also at the same time, it's like for me, before I went to like university as well, my parents was like, oh, you have to study medicine or study law and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
So that's the kind of like mentality that they have for their children, because obviously they see it as, okay, these jobs are well paid, so obviously they want you to get these like well paid jobs and stuff.
Yeah.
So I studied a marketing degree, so we're completely out of like the context of what my parents wanted me to do. So at the beginning they were like, oh, are you sure you want to study a marketing degree, so is there going to be like money at the end of the your university career and stuff?
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of had to like defy all the odds and be like, Mum, this is what I want to study. I enjoyed studying at university, and I guarantee you in a couple of years I'll have like a well-paid job and stuff, and then yeah. So we kind of had
That's quite interesting, because you said your parents wanted you to study like become a doctor or a lawyer or whatnot, right? And that's very Asian background, and that's my kind of stereotype as well.
Yeah.
Actually, my parents didn't actually say that, but it's the general stereotype that says that Asian parents want their kids to be accountants, lawyers, whatnot. I'm interested in your what your parents said to you before uni.
I feel quite blessed because I had a pretty open and encouraging, upbringing depending on what I wanted to do. So for me, culturally, like my mum's from South America, a country called Guyana. My granddad was Black Caribbean, my gran is Portuguese, and my dad is white English. My mum moved over here when she was very young, her and her 3 sisters and my gran. At the time when they moved over, it was a very white Britain, very white. There's not much ethnic diversity, and still now, when I look back on my upbringing, I was probably one of the few mixed race kids growing up there. It's a little bit better now, but as far as career choices and choosing what I wanted to do, I was quite encouraged to pretty much follow whatever I wanted. So I didn't have any pressure from my parents or any of the family saying, right, we want you to go down this path. It was my own idea to join the army. It was my own idea to study psychology at university, and they pretty much supported that the whole way through. And even later on in life, any career changes I've made, it's never been guided or pushed or directed in any way. They've been very supportive of whatever I've chosen. Whether it's worked out right or wrong, they've encouraged me to just go and do whatever, and if it turns out to be a mistake, then you learn from it. But if it turns out to work, then yeah.
So do you think that's just changed over time? Do you think that mentality in our parents is just not there anymore?
I believe so, because obviously, from my parents as well, that's the mentality they had coming here to the UK. But I feel like after a good couple of years, whilst they've been living here as well, that mentality started to change a little bit. A lot of these expectations that they have is going to become very unrealistic for most people and stuff.
Yeah.
So they have to kind of change their ways and kind of go along with what their children want to do. So obviously, for me growing up in the UK it will be completely different to me growing up in Somalia. So they kind of have to adjust to a lot of the things and just go with what the children want to do. So I don't know what you guys think as well.
Growing up, I grew up with a lot of stereotypes, and I think Chinese. I think children who are Chinese always will grow up on a very big stereotype. You go home, you eat Chinese food. You eat, and it doesn't smell the most pleasant. But we all grew up on a lot of stereotypes, and it's it's kind of frustrating in a way, you know, because like you're kind of thinking, why can't you see, or why can't you be more open-minded, especially growing up in school, right? So I don't know. I still think to this very day that Chinese people can still be seen as inferior, even though we're one of the biggest populations in the world. That Chinese people are still seen inferior. That, you know, if I was watching a show that David Chang was on the other day on Netflix, and he said, you know, Chinese people are still seen as the people that, like, if they're in a confrontation, they won't be the people that speak up or back, or they're the people that's going to back down first. And I still think to this very day there is still that element of how people perceive Chinese people as.
Fair enough. Do you think that comes from, right now though, how potentially China is perceived as a country, rather than actually getting to know Chinese people? Do you reckon that stereotype comes from a lot of what we hear in the media, and, you know, without speaking out of turn, a lot of what we hear that happens within mainland China isn't exactly super positive?
Well, I think people are scared
So
a
do
lot.
you think people develop those stereotypes on what they expect Chinese people to be like in person because
Yeah.
of all the propaganda they hear from what's happening over there?
I think people get scared a lot. Like, people are scared of change. People are scared of something new. So when they hear like a certain new power is coming into effect, people don't know how to deal with it. It's like, you know, in business, if you hear like a competition down the road, yeah, like we stick to our guns in terms of what we are, but like we're still going to be like, oh, how do we deal with all this competition coming in? So you're still going to have some form of territorial like what's the word?
You don't want any competition that's a threat. And
Yeah,
if
exactly.
There is
And how do you deal with
potentially
that?
a different, you know, people from ethnic background coming in, and they're not a background you know anything about. Your instant reaction to something that is unknown is fear, or you know, something you don't want to, I don't know, have any threat to what you've got, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And anything you don't understand, you generally always are uncomfortable with. So that's a good point. I think that we're quite fortunate because our gym is pretty ethnically diverse. You know, we've got people from all over the places, you know, different places in Europe, Australia, New Zealand. It's great. So I think, how do you think we can encourage it more?
I think we just got to open up people's minds and just not really educate people, but like just talk to people. And funny enough, like this goes into like being on your phone too much territory, where if you're just on your phone, all you do is ever see what's on your phone, and you never really out interacting with other people. So I think, you know, without not really giving a straight answer, but I think just openly talking to more people and trying to shut down those barriers and trying to shut down those initial you know, norms of society that people think about. You know, I would love to be able to you know, showcase my culture more. I'd love to be able to showcase my culture more in the whole of the UK. And if there was a possibility to do so, I would definitely jump on it. So I think it's just being more open and doing more things, and just always constantly be moving and doing something, and constantly be talking and being openly, you know, openly discussing things with other people.
Yeah, I agree with you, Matt, as well. I think maybe if it's possible to maybe get involved with different, like, various groups of communities and stuff, and maybe do some sort of activities as well. Like, it's great what we do here, like with the local Shoreditch Park, obviously building parks and building like certain things and stuff, you know. So if we could do that to like for like various different communities and stuff, that'd be great, you know, because obviously that'd be like one step, and then you should just work from there, and obviously that'd be great, yeah.
What do you think?
I think all of the above, but I think if we really want to push it, it's going to be looking into, I don't know, events, things that are specific to the cultures that are around us.
Okay.
And I guess looking at a way we can accommodate that, whether it's a celebration of something like a Chinese New Year thing, or, you know, something that's specific to Somalia, and encouraging, I don't know,
I actually think that's a really good idea.
I don't know, whether it's there's a certain thing you do to celebrate. You might cook a certain dish and I don't know, we attempt to do that and host it somewhere, or it's an event. I don't really know. I'm just kind of thinking about ways that we could do it with our, what we have. But I think that's going to be the way we can break into it and really show that we, I guess, care and accommodate for all the different types of cultures that we have within our area.
I think sharing other people's cultures is a great way.
Yeah.
I think we were to celebrate, Diwali just went.
Yep.
Celebrate Hanukkah when which is near Christmas. Just literally just be open to celebrating other things, other culture celebrations.
And potentially then with that, it's clocking onto the people we know within our gym space, staff or members who are from those cultures, and then looking at ways that we can develop things that are important to them and their cultures. So all right, let's get that one on the books.
I thought it was quite cool.
Great.